I already know I want to cut through this area, this area, this area here, and possibly this area as well. And I want it to all meet up in the middle here. One thing we can try doing is like going to BTO, topology brush, and just start using the topology brush to drag out geometry here. Then you can tap off, and then you can say, for instance, split mask points. Again, that's under your split menu here. So now we have this object underneath. We can make that into a live Boolean here. And then if we go into solo mode here, we can use our Z modeler brush, BZM, hover over a face, Q mesh, polygroup all, and we can hold down shift and just pull this through. And as we pull this through, you're going to see it's going to start slicing through. And we can turn on transparency with ghost, and we can just continue to pull that all the way through and use the move brush to kind of pull these areas back. We can continue the thing, that same process from the other side here, and from this corner and this corner as well. Another thing we can try is just masking these areas. Let's go ahead and mask this area here, here, and we're holding down Control and we're using mask pin. And then all of this in here needs to go. And down in this corner as well. We turn on our polyframe here. I'm going to turn off lines, so we're just looking at our polygroups here. I'm going to hit Control W at those mask points, and now we have these separated out as separate objects. And with just those visible, I'm going to go over here to the subtool extract menu, and I'm going to hit extract. That distance is fine. You can play around with it. It's going to subtract negative or positive, how smooth it makes it, etc. But this looks fine to me. I'm going to go ahead and hit accept. And that's going to give us these mesh pieces here. So if we go back to the girl statue, go into solo mode, hit Control Shift, that'll go ahead and bring our entire statue back. But now we have these extracted points here. So if we go out of solo mode, we have live Boolean turned on. I make this subtractive and turn off polyframe. You're going to see these extracted points are going to start cutting through the mesh in a little bit more of a precise way. If I go into solo mode on these, let's go ahead and turn our line back on our polyframe here. You're going to see if we could bridge this shape to this shape, or this shape to this shape, and kind of just bring these objects together, that would provide us with a little bit more accurate way to cut through our mesh. One thing you can do is you can go BC brush curve and do curve bridge. And then as you're dragging that curve bridge near this polygroup, hold down shift, and that'll go ahead and wrap around that polygroup. And then you can go over here to this one, and then again hold down shift, that'll wrap around that polygroup, and that'll go ahead and bridge those two objects together. Now one thing you may need to do, let's go ahead and hold down Control Shift, isolate that interior purple polygroup here, Control Shift drag with visibility here, select rectangle to invert that, and then go in here to delete hidden. That's going to be under geometry, modify topology, delete hidden. And now let's try that again. It'll do it on an open border as well, so we can go over here to BC curve bridge, BCV, hold down shift, we'll go that hole to that hole. There we go. So that went ahead and bridged those two correctly. And we can go ahead and tap off to delete that curve. And now I'm going to go to from this hole, hold down shift, all the way to this one. Go ahead and bridge those together. And let's go ahead and hold down Control and unmask. Go out of solo mode, turn off polyframe, and let's see how we're doing here. So now this object has masked all the way through, and this object is pulling all the way through as well. And now this front mask here needs to just come back. So actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Geometry, Modify Topology, and there's a Close Holes option. Just go ahead and hit that. And if you hold that, you're going to see it close this hole again. It was previously closed, but we deleted that with the other polygroup. Hold down Control Shift, isolate that. It looks like we have another little extra piece here. With this visible, you can actually go in here to Polygroups, choose Auto Groups, and then we hold down Control Shift. That'll bring everything back. And now just this piece here has a purple polygroup. So now what you can do is you can hit W to go into your transpose mode, hold down Control and tap that purple area, and then just drag that back. And if you want to, you can rotate this back around a little bit. Basically, we're pulling these shapes together to make them one just continuous, massive cutout shape. So I'm going to go out of solo mode here, turn off polyframe, and now that's going to cut straight back to those other shapes here. Now that I have these shapes ready to go, what I can do, if I want to make these a little more malleable, I can go in and inflate and sculpt on them, and they'll behave a little bit nicer. What I can do is I can go up here to Dynamesh. Let's turn off blur again, and I'll do it here in this menu. Geometry, Dynamesh, crank up your resolution. Let's say 616. Hit Dynamesh, and that'll go ahead and Dynamesh these objects together. We don't really need those polygroups anymore. I'm going to hit Control W to go ahead and make this all one polygroup here. Go out of solo mode, and now what we can do is we can go in here we can hold down Shift and we can smooth our shapes here. And we can go in here with our move brush and we can just move these shapes back if we want to. Now you may think that was an awful lot of work to just kind of get a weirdo shape, but really, you know, talking through it takes a little bit longer. It's actually a pretty fast process. If you go in here and we start smoothing this down, you're going to see it's going to start getting rid of that corner. What you can do is instead of going in here with your move brush and moving this down, you're going to see it kind of pulls to just kind of a broad point. Go in here to your move brush, go to curve, turn on AccuCurve, and that'll go ahead and pull this down to a point when you pull. So we can kind of pull this out here. And again, if you want to see the object that we're messing with, go in here to polyframe and turn that on, and you can see the polyframe of the object you're using. And you can also go into solo mode here. You're going to see I'm getting some really thin shapes in here, which is probably not healthy for my subtractive mesh here. So what I'm going to do is go in here with my inflate brush, so B-I-N for your inflate brush, and just go ahead and inflate these things up. I'm using hotkeys for my brushes. Again, go to Intro to ZBrush Part 2 on my YouTube channel, and you'll see how to set up hotkeys, and again, like custom menus like this, save you a little bit of time as you're using ZBrush. So I'm going to go ahead and go through here and inflate all this stuff up and smooth it down. And if you want to close off this hole, if this makes that shape a little bit easier for you to understand, and we can go ahead and inflate this up as well. And again, you can turn off solo mode to go back into this view and see how you're affecting the mesh here. I'm going to go through here and inflate this up. I'm inflating all this stuff up, and I'm going to go through here. You can either mask and transpose this, or you can just go through and inflate if you want to. Again, hold down Control. I'll go ahead and turn off line here. We can mask all these areas in here. Control tap to invert that mask. Hit W, hold down Alt. Click this little teardrop to shoot that down to the unmashed mesh center, and then just scale all this together. Control drag again. That'll go ahead and Dynamesh all that together, and now we have one single blob shape that we're using as a subtractive mesh for our object. Let's turn off polyframe here. Now let's see if there's any other changes we'd want to make. So again, I'm just going over and through this object. We can hit like a clay brush here, and we can actually start sculpting this back here. So any areas where it's like cutting into the arm too much, just go in here with your clay brush and just build that out a little bit. And you can also use visibility if you want to isolate pieces of this, but in this case I'm not going to. And again, going in here to our move brush with the AccuCurve turned on, and we'll go ahead and pull these out to corners like so. This is just the first part of this process. We're basically just dialing in where we want our mesh to be cut out, stuff we don't want to be projected to. Again, go in here with the move brush, we can pull this back. And just Control drag if you want to just re-Dynamesh as you go. Again, get in here with your clay brush, and you can sculpt this up. You can also go in here with your Damien standard brush, and you can start carving that back, or your clay buildup, or your clay tubes brush, holding down Alt, or letting go of Alt, and just pushing that back. And actually, let's go into solo mode, and we'll build all this up. I want all of this to be deleted here. And it doesn't have to be perfect at this point. We're still going to do another cleanup process. But if this is the shape that's kind of getting us the result that we want, we can go ahead and use this as a subtractive mesh. Now, instead of using it as a subtractive mesh on this duplicated Dynamesh that we made with a closed bottom hole, what I'm going to do is, again, I'm going to go back up to our original here. If we go into solo mode, here's our original mesh from our scan. I'm going to go ahead and duplicate this off again. I'm going to take this extracted mesh. We're going to push it up one. I'm going to go out of solo mode. I'm going to hold down Shift and turn off all the eyeballs. So if this one's selected and we hold down Shift and we turn on the eyeballs, it'll turn on all the eyeballs. We hold down Shift and turn off the eyeball, it'll turn off all the eyeballs. I'll tap the nameplate to bring the eyeball back, and then tap this eyeball for this duplicated scan data one that we have here. Now if we go into polyframe mode here, you're going to see the girl statue is all one polygroup. Let's go ahead and turn off live Boolean right now. And our extracted mesh is another polygroup. This is important because when we create our union mesh, all of this area we're cutting out is going to have one polygroup, and I'm going to use that to kind of constrain some of our modifications here. So let's turn live Boolean back on. Let's go down here to subtool, Boolean. We're not using dynamic subdivision, so I'm just going to hit make Boolean mesh. And that's going to go ahead and throw out a U mesh right here. What I'm going to do now is go to insert. I'm going to insert that U mesh, and that's going to put it right below my extraction. So this extract we don't really need anymore. We can either hide it or we can delete it. I'm going to go ahead and delete that. And this girl statue we duplicated off, we don't need that anymore either, so I'm going to go ahead and delete that. So we're going to immediately, I'm going to grab this girl statue here, I'm going to insert that U mesh here. The extraction we don't need anymore. The girl statue that we duplicated off, we don't need anymore.